analysis section of the team performance report. This section analyzes all of your attack rounds and compares those where you planted against those where you did not plant. Um, as you can see here, we planted in about 38% of our attack rounds, which is very high. Like I mentioned before, as a team, we tend to play much more for the objective than for kills than the average team. Um, not in the least because our mechanical skills is a little bit lacking compared to our peers in the ranks that we're playing in. Ways to improve your plan success rate would be to get better at executing, right? Having a good plan, making sure everybody knows their job, holding flanks, uh, holding angles, getting the diffuser down, right? Um, team coordination really is important when it comes to plant executes. The plant conversion rate is the percentage of rounds that you won after you planted, right? So in 81% of the times where we have planted, we have actually won, which means that in the other 19%, we lost. So the defenders ended up being able to disable the diffuser after we planted. Um, this should be really, really high, right? If this is low, that means probably you're planting way too soon, so you don't have the map control you need, and so the post-plant situation falls apart. So yeah, make sure you have the proper map control before you plant. That would be an indicator if this is really low. For us, it's all right. I think it could be a little bit better, but it's all right. This shows how much more likely you are to win a round if you were to plant, right? So it's 2.33 times more likely, which is just an indicator of just how much more effective it is to win a round as an attacker by trying to go for objective as it is than to try and go for the kills to win the round. And the last metric here shows you the average number of players that were alive on your team, 3.02, versus that on the enemy team, 2.02. Um, an indicator of if there's a big difference between the two, that means you had a large man advantage already. So you're very much more secure in your plans, but also an indicator that some of your teammates are probably going for the kills rather than going for the plant, because they're taking gunfights that they really don't have to. um, if the total number of players alive, right, in this case that'd be 5.04, the higher that is, the better you are at kind of like securing the plant while it's going down, holding angles, getting the map control you need. It's a great indicator of good team communication or coordination at least. This table kind of compares the two different types, right? So the rounds where you planted versus the rounds where you didn't plant. So as you can see, obviously the round win percentage is much higher when we planted. Interestingly, the time to first engagement is lower. Um, I think I've seen this in almost all the reports I've run, which means I think that you know the sooner you get into the map, the more time you have to get the map control you need to get a successful plant down, right? So there's there's a push and pull there in terms of you want to get a first engagement as soon as possible, but you want to win that first engagement as well, right? Because looking at the entry success rate, you see the rounds where we planted were rounds where we were much where we had a lot more entry successes. So where we already had a man advantage after the first gunfight, basically. So yeah, very important to engage as soon as possible, but be um, also as safe in terms of like being able to trade each other out as well as possible. The final section here just compares which operators you were playing uh, on average the most while you were plant in rounds where you managed to plant versus rounds where you didn't manage to plant. For us, like the lineup is really similar because we generally play the same lineup. If these two are very, very different from each other, that's a strong indicator that your operator lineup is lacking. So you're doing something wrong there. So yeah, go back to like the role analysis and take a look there at what role are you missing that is here in the planted section but isn't here in the didn't plant section, and try and assign that better, and that will likely get you more plants. Here, like a plant success rate of 38%, I think is really, really good. Aim for that, I would say, and you're golden, I think. The last section here compares rounds where you planted and the time breakdown of those rounds versus where you didn't plant. I think interesting here is that the plants, which is the yellow columns here, we got a lot of our plants down around the 150-second mark. Um, so not in the last 15 seconds, but actually a ways before that. So we were quite like comfortable in terms of time management with our executes. Um, if everything's bunched up here, right, then you need to be able to get better at your faster at your roam clearing, basically. Um, another indicator, another interesting thing is here that the number of kills outweighs the number of deaths, right? Which is fair enough. The rounds in which you manage to plant are likely rounds where you had a strong man advantage, right? Looking compared to like rounds where we didn't plant, where the kills and the deaths kind of equal each other out, or the deaths actually um, go up, and especially at the last, you see like, yeah, more often than not, when we run out of time, it comes down to those final gunfights. Like one of us tries to plant but dies, then that's a free death right there. Um, Strong indicators of a round where you didn't end up being able to plant.